And make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, guys. I am Sunny Chayes, and you are with me today on Singing in the Rain. And today I have a really, really important guest I'm very excited to have us chat with. And this show is going to really be about, partially about the environment, partially about how to get creative about what we have with where we are and what we're doing with what we have, and really, really stepping up our being here on the planet and also our ability to make a difference. As you might see in the foreground here, I have some huge vegetables. They look like they were grown by, I don't even know who, Jack in the Beanstalk. And my guest today is he actually founded an organization called Homegrown Gardens, LA, and his name is Matt Van Diepen. And I'm so excited to have him here today because I actually had beautiful, delicious vegetables from a garden that I was having dinner at, and it was just so awesome that I said, how did you do this? And the person introduced me to Matt. So I'm going to bring him right on, John. Shall we bring on Matt? Let's do it. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Sunny. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. There we go. I like having our applause. So, guys, this is so great. I'm really excited to be able to do this because I think that we are in a place, first of all, as we know in LA or Southern California, we're having a very major drought. And also, we're living in a land that is not really meant for people. We live in a desert and we have to bring water in. And so we're doing that, and it's becoming more and more a problem. And then, of course, with having the drought makes watering all these lawns and everything really a problem. So, yes, I was at a beautiful home in Santa Monica that had a complete garden. The entire front yard was a garden with a lovely house in the background. I was like, yay, this is so great. So come to our conversation, and I want you to start chatting with me about, sort of what it is. What is a homegrown garden?
Homegrown garden is just somebody growing food around there.
Does Matt need to be a little closer? Yeah, okay. There we go.
So homegrown garden is just a garden that somebody has built around their home or a place where they work, a place where they can have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and herbs on a regular basis.
So it literally is, as I say, this particular house, my stepsister actually, Zan, was able to have her lawn rolled up and donated, and then there is a garden. So she had a beautiful, beautiful vegetables that we literally picked and made a salad out of. And it was just really, really incredible, and it just felt so cool.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people, especially in Southern California and Los Angeles in particular, to be aware of the environmental issues that we're facing, such as the drought and global warming. And lawns are really a big problem in our
water
climate.
Suckers.
Yeah, we actually live in a semi-arid climate, so it's not quite a desert, but it is a really rough climate for growing things like tropical plants and grasses that so many people in Southern California enjoy having around their homes.
Yes, and areas that are close to LA are actual deserts like Palm Springs and like that. And the way things are going, we'll just see. But hopefully all will be well. But it's getting very dry around here. So, yes. So tell me, like what you did with Zan. Actually, let's back up a little bit. Why did you decide to do this?
Well, I was growing some food up on an organic tomato farm in the Sierra Nevadas, and
nice.
really enjoying myself up there. Yeah, it was
enough sun for tomatoes.
Yeah. At times of the winter, things would definitely slow down significantly, but for the most part, we were growing tomatoes year round. It was all enclosed in a greenhouse, so we had heat inputs, and with those, in addition to the natural sunlight, we were able to produce tomatoes year round.
Cool.
And I just really fell in love with farming at that point, and but I want it to be more accessible to everybody. I wanted everybody to have access to really high quality, organic, fresh produce.
So one thing, so then you started Homegrown LA or
That's right.
Homegrown Gardens LA.
That's right.
So, so this is a company where you literally go to people call you and say, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah, that's
What
right.
do I do?
Well, it depends. Everybody's got a different living situation, and we just try to be really flexible and work with people around their budget, around their space, to help them maximize their food production. So
One thing I liked when I saw in one of your videos is that you also pointed out that you actually chat with the people and see what do they like to eat.
yeah, I think that's definitely a big part of growing your own food is growing what you're going to be enjoying to eat. So.
Yes, and then there was another aspect that you were talking about as far as bringing community together. So, like for example, in the case of Zan, she'll be growing all of these a number of vegetables. I think maybe 7 or 8 different ones, and then. Do you partner people with other people to like share the crops, or how do you? Is that something you do?
Yeah, we do a lot of that. I work at the Mar Vista Farmers Market. I sell seedlings there every Sunday. Yeah,
Like these seedlings.
yeah. Those
like
are some
this package.
some
Ooh, I like
packets.
this package. Nice.
That's
So
a
cool.
cilantro. Grows really well around here.
Ooh.
But yeah, so
My
I
fave.
I
People either hate or love cilantro.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you love or hate cilantro, John?
Not my favorite.
Okay, there you go.
What am
It's
I?
a chemistry thing. I think.
Yeah, I've heard that it actually
love it so
involves a
much.
gene or something, and some people have a gene that make it taste like soap.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, there you
Does it
go.
taste
Well,
like
I
soap
love
to
it.
you,
So.
John? Yeah.
I don't know. It just upsets my stomach sometimes. So
Oh,
I choose
okay.
not
Well,
to.
that's
All right.
so when you have Mexican food, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, so carry on.
Okay. So yeah, I have a nursery at my house, a little greenhouse, and we start everything from seed in there, and then we bring it outside and adjust it to harden it off is what the technical term, and adjust it to the local conditions outside of the greenhouse. And then we take those to the market and sell them for $1.50 a piece, and just try to encourage people to grow some of their own food.
So they come there and they get the already started tomato stock or whatever it's called.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then and that makes life a lot easier. So people can take those and put them on their balconies or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So we do raised boxes and hanging baskets and all sorts of different setups for people who are in more difficult growing situations.
So are there issues? Okay, so let's really get grounded with this here. So you can actually come into somebody's garden or their lawn or their home and say, okay, so this is what would grow well here because of the light and the this sort of thing. And so you can really guide the people because I'm sure there are many people listening who would love to do this. And it also does save money, doesn't it, as far as water and for the government or the PG&E, that kind of thing, DWP?
Yeah, definitely. I think growing your own food is economical. So especially herbs and some of the microgreens or leafy greens. You buy a big bunch of cilantro in the store and it costs $2, $3, and then you grow or you have it around for a week and it's all gone. It's all rotten and bad.
Yeah, I never can use it
I
all. I
never
feel like
get to
wanting
it.
to just take a little sprig. I hate it because I just hate to waste it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the nice thing about growing your own food is it's not going bad. It's just gonna, as long as you're taking good care of it, it's gonna continue to sustain itself, and then you can just pick off little bits here and there whenever you want it.
So fun. And then, as I say, also just with the amount of watering, I mean, obviously you have to water the vegetables, but it's much less water.
Yeah, for larger scale things, it's economical to grow food as well. For example, with your friend Zan or your sister-in-law, she had grass in front of her house, and grass is very input intensive. It requires a lot of water, a lot of nutrients. Herbicides as well are often applied to lawns in the area.
And then
to
there's
keep
the
weeds
runoff,
down.
which goes into our water system.
Yeah, exactly. So in Zan's case, what we did was we removed her lawn, we took out all the sprinkler system, and we put in drip irrigation, which is much more water efficient than a sprinkler head.
Whew. I mean, one thing I cannot stand seeing, which I used to live in Northern California and down here, is these crazy sprinklers going all over or onto my car. I mean, and it's just everywhere but the grass or the grass and everything around it. So This is really nice. It's laser watering. I like that.
Exactly. Right in the root system, right where it needs to be, not spraying in the street or washing your car for you.
Yeah, those water spots. And then again, and then not the runoff. And then, okay, so when you're doing a garden, do you have to, speaking of pesticides and things like that, is this something that you teach people how not to use? I'm hoping. I
Yeah,
hope.
yes, definitely. We try to garden as organically and non-invasively to the environment as possible. So we do lots of different techniques, mulching, composting, companion planting, planting vegetables and herbs together with beneficial flowers to create a symbiotic relationship in the microenvironment.
Nice. So with the flowers, which also do make it look kind of dandy. That's another question that I have as far as, just kind of how people in the neighborhood handle this situation, but we'll get to that in a second. So you have a way to plant certain things that will perhaps bring or not bring rodents, or do we have these issues with the situation with the lovely, delicious vegetables there?
Yeah, definitely.
And fruits, probably like strawberries and things like that, I would imagine. Bring critters.
We haven't experienced a whole lot of problems with mice. I guess a lot of people do express that concern in the city, that they're afraid they're going to bring in rats and mice and all sorts of other problems. But like I said, what we try to do is have a lot of diversity in the garden, so it's very balanced. If you do have a problem, then it's only going to affect a certain part of your garden. Hopefully, ideally, after the critter has found that and had its fill, it'll move on instead of decimating the whole thing.
I see. And it doesn't necessarily, because there are mice and rats and, they're just everywhere anyway. So you haven't found it to be a problem where it sort of is a magnet for these guys.
Yeah, no,
guys.
not at all. Like I said, we've experienced a few problems. Sometimes you get some squirrels or some caterpillars, or there's all sorts of things that come up when you're growing food. But there's so much information on the internet as far as organic controls of different pests, different diseases, that it's just really, as long as you're dedicated to those principles, they're not too difficult to maintain.
So if somebody really want to do that, you guys out there listening, again, I want to really point out the aspect of why I'm having you on the show, because I feel, as most people know about me, very, very strongly about our power of one, what we can do for the environment, our carbon footprint, all those sort of overused expressions. But anyway, just really the truth about that, in what we can just do to be sacred in our behavior, in our actions, in our movements through our life. And so not everyone is going to do a garden. I'm so clear about that. Not everyone is going to even, let's say, do a tomato or basil planting on their balcony in an apartment. Again, though, why I love that you're on this show with me today is to really talk about the environment, and also, again, our sacredness and being creative with what we have. If somebody owns or even rents, and I'm sure one works that out, doing this, then you are creating, you are being sacred with so many elements, like we're talking about the water, the pesticides, non-use, all of that, and then also having the sustainable life that, of course, if something were to happen, you've got food right there. This is a concern in Southern California, but anywhere. So I just really, really applaud you and appreciate that you're doing this, and that we're kind of spreading the word about this on the show. John, do you want to say anything about this? What do you think about this?
I think it's great. A lot more people are doing this nowadays because they don't trust their food sources. So I think
good point.
It's a really good idea. It's an effort, definitely, but it's good that you have people like you that are producing for us. So that's great.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that you're bringing up the non-trust of the food source, because that is a big other point. People are wondering about the GMOs and all. Just what's up, and I think there's something else really important that I'd like to point out as far as eating and health goes, because over the last number of years, we have had the luxury, but sometimes it's a double-edged sword, of being able to receive strawberries all year round, or cherries, or tomatoes, or many other fruits and vegetables all year round. And the truth of the matter is, the best time to eat a fruit or vegetable, is when it's in season.
That's
And
right.
I believe that also the body, and John, I know you know a lot about this too. We need the circulation of different foods and vegetables. Just always eating butter lettuce 20, every week, 52 weeks a year is not really the way it was kind of designed, I believe. Having the variety, what is in season, it's the most delicious, it's the most nutritious, and it's also, I sound like a commercial for my kids. But truly, and allowing it to grow to the point where it's the color it's supposed to be is another great benefit, because then we're getting all the nutrients. It's not being dyed, or it's not you sort of creating itself in a truck somewhere. And so I feel like there's a really big point about that too, of eating in season and not eating not in season. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Absolutely. Like, as you guys just kind of summarized, there's so many different reasons to grow our own food or to have local food systems. And I think one of the biggest ones is our health. A lot of the food that we get now, as you said, it's cured on the way. It's picked unripe. It might look ripe in the store, but it's significantly lower in nutritional value than a lot of the other or than fresh food that you could get out of your garden. There's also the issue of genetically modified organisms becoming more and more prevalent in our food system. And
Yes, corn people, be careful.
Yeah, corn, soy, cottonseed oil, sugar beets. There's and they're just
Those are sort of the
becoming-
4 top ones to really be paying attention to. I mean, not to get too much into that, but those are the ones, and really be careful with corn and corn products. Like those lovely tortilla chips.
Yeah, they're
that are
so
like
tasty, but
razors to your body inside.
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of ways.
They have they're just coated, and they're actually injected. The seeds in the plant has toxins, BT, which is a bacteria that cuts up the linings of bug stomachs, and they're finding it does the same to us with increased consumption and.
Not pretty. Another thing that I've been hearing over the years is when people talk about growing food or just what the quality of food is and was, that really are the topsoil or the soil is a real issue, a real problem as far as, let's just talk about tomatoes for kind of tomato. Getting it, number one, yes, in bad soil or in nutrient poor soil is a problem starter right there. And then with the just the whole process of it not being able to be vine ripened and all that. And then when you grow it in your own garden, you have the opportunity through you guys and like you say, the internet, but we have you on the show, so we're going to use you up here to make your soil really nutrient rich, right?
Yeah, I think that's just
Like,
something
bring it,
anybody
dirt.
can do. Yeah, it's so easy to compost. If you just have some dirt in your yard or anywhere around you, you can just throw your vegetable scraps in there and dig a big hole and bury them. And if you come back a couple months later, you'll find it all broken down. It'll be really rich and probably biologically alive. I'm sure you'll find worms in there. And
Yes.
it can be a really simple process of rebuilding the soil. Just a matter of taking that first step and committing yourself.
I've also heard about coffee grounds are supposed to be good for the soil. Is that true?
The coffee sword is kind of a double-edged sword. Because the coffee grounds are acidic, so they can acidify your soil. In many of the soils that are around Los Angeles, that's actually an okay thing because our soils are so alkaline.
Ah, okay.
But if you already have acidic soil, it can be problematic. But on the other hand, it is very rich in nitrogen and some other minerals that are very important to the plants.
And of course, fair trade coffee people.
Organic too. That's one of the worst sprayed crops, supposedly.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Are you an advocate of hydroponics?
And what is hydroponics?
Well, it's basically a way of producing plants, indoor home gardens, and things like that with less maintenance. Really, is it?
It can be less maintenance. It's also less water. Typically, you can recycle the water.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, hydroponics and aquaponics, which is aquaponics is the fusion of aquaculture, which is fish cultivation,
Yeah.
and hydroponic growing. So you're using fish to raise the
To
food.
raise, yeah, exactly.
And that creates a closed loop system, which I think has a lot of value, and especially in times like this where we have such a lack of water,
Right.
it can be a real viable solution. But I'm a big fan of the soil. I think that to get away from the soil is kind of neglecting our responsibility. We were just talking about soil health and erosion and the lack of topsoil, and just giving back to that and trying to rebuild that is going to be beneficial for ourselves and the food that we eat, but also for
Yes.
future generations.
Yes, which is really, really important. And one thing that I like about this, when I was talking earlier about the sacredness of our behavior and how we move through the planet, and just even our mind, our thoughts about it. It's like, okay, we have land that, as we know, we should know, we never own. Even if we think we have a deed, I mean, we never actually own it. So to be good caretakers of it, I think, is so, so crucial. And then also the idea, so again, just the love and the sacredness of this. And then I also think of the family. I mean, I wrote down on my note here, kids, having your family do it together, and having kids have that connection to these vegetables and fruits, that this is where this comes from. This is how it starts out. This is a little seed, and then it becomes this dinky little whatever it is, and then it grows into this huge zucchini and squash and everything. I mean, I think just the journey of that alone is so bitchin' for kids and family, right?
It's really magical for them to see
Yeah.
that transformation, to see that something that they're doing is having an effect and a consequence, and it's really special thing for little kids. And
yes, and
anybody.
absolutely, and another thing that I think about it, I was going through a few health challenges about a year ago, and this beautiful doctor who was working with me was talking to me about mineralization, and just in general, I was thinking about it, because I was thinking, wow, it is true. We sort of don't walk on the earth with bare feet. We don't get to the beach enough necessarily. The food we eat is, in a lot of ways demineralized and everything. And so working with the soil, mineralizing it, and working with it with our hands. I know so many people who find gardening so therapeutic. My sister's like that. It just really uplifts her to be in the earth, working with it with her hands, and just doing it, pulling out weeds and just doing all that. Do you find that with the people you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. I find it for myself as well as for pretty much all my clients. Anybody who, if they're stressed or if they have certain ailments or something, and they start gardening, they really find that many of their problems kind of fade away. We're porous. Our bodies are not totally solid, and when we're in the earth, there's an exchange going on between our biota and the biota in the soil.
Beautifully said. I love that. And the purpose, I was also writing down, I was just thinking of people who I've heard over the years with working with people who are marginalized in some ways, either have come out of prison or have come out of halfway houses. And there's some really beautiful organizations up in Northern California. One called New Beginnings, where they have gentlemen who have come out of halfway houses and other real challenges. And they have a huge garden. And actually, Unity and Marin did one of these sort of sacred Saturday days and stuff. And my son and I went over there, and oh my God, it was hilarious, because I don't really know how to do that stuff. And I had the wheelbarrow, and we were hysterically laughing, because it was like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing. We just kept singing Green Acres and stuff. But anyway, especially me, it was really a crack up, but it was great. I loved it. And the guys get in and they do this, and of course it's because of all the other reasons we talked about, economically, working and everything. But the purpose, the just the grounded purpose of healing spiritually and meditatively, I would even say. What do you think about that, John? I know you want to jump in there. I can just feel
I totally
you.
agree with you. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling
Good.
exactly what you're saying. It is a matter of grounding, really, and that is just putting your energy into the roots of the earth, so.
And letting those roots, like you said so beautifully, we're so symbiotic. There's no other way to think about it. And yet I feel of course, one of the elements that we deal with so much these days is separate everything. I mean, in every spiritual book and song and master, and everyone is talking about we are all one. There is no they. There is no separateness. And yet we do all, well, I'll say for myself, I mean, I feel it. Like, so, I mean, I feel the separation. And I know that I'm also connected. But working in the earth kind of helps me connect in a way that even a song may not, even though that's one of my best ways to get into my heart and soul and
totally.
head.
I mean, when your hands are in the earth, you're literally connected to the whole planet. It's all woven together, and when you have your hands in there and you're working, I really think it gives you a much deeper connection to the earth and to everybody.
Or even the beach.
Well, yes, exactly. I was going to say, because I have friends, and I may connect you with Ways for Water people. They're an organization I absolutely love, and they bring water systems all around the world in a very gracious, very easy way. And they're all surfers. They're three guys who started it, and they're really kind of the three musketeers doing, over 100,000 people they brought water to, just these three people, with the help of donations and stuff. And different military places around the country or world escort them in, and then they just do their thing. And they're all surfers. And my brother's a surfer. And one thing I've noticed about him always, my brother John, is that he, from way back, from when he was 13 and I was 15, talking about the environment and being very connected with it. And I really understood that. And I'm not a surfer, but how they really are like in the earth. I mean, they go into the ocean, and so they have that connection of being so deeply, I mean, more than people who walk on top. They're a little more in.
Yeah, they're going
right?
with the flows of the tide.
And the ebbs and flows of the tide, and they're just so feeling it. So let's talk a little bit, because we're talking about community, and we are all one, and we have the power of one, which I always love to say. The idea of the community. So there are ways through your organization, and again, I want to remind you guys that I'm with Matt Van Diepen. I'm looking at the page because I want to make sure that I get your name right. And I'm Sunny Chayes, and this is Singing in the Rain. I get so chatty, I forget to mention it. Let's talk about community and connection that way. So what are there ways that, if I have a big crop of things that I share with other people, or how does all that work? Are you connected to food banks, or what goes on with that possibility?
Yeah, so in my
let's
neighborhood.
Let's get creative.
Yeah, definitely. We need all the
rock
creative
it.
solutions we can find.
Let's do it.
In my neighborhood, I live in Venice, and there's a group called the Westside Produce Exchange, where anybody who grows food or who has extra food, some people even bring baked goods in if they don't have a lot of places to garden. You just bring your excess, you drop it off in the morning, and then in the afternoon you come back, and they've separated all the food and put it in baskets, and then you take a basket home of all sorts of different things that people locally grew.
That is great. And again, that is how it used to be before the Industrial Revolution and all that is what people did. People bartered and all that. And, the concept of money is a pretty new concept. I mean, in the scheme of human life here on this particular planet Earth that we happen to be on right now, that idea of having coinage in our purses, or even the point of credit cards. I mean, whoa, that is like since the 70s, really. I mean, people who are younger, who were born after that, there was a time when people actually just whipped out money and paid for things. And then, of course, before that, it was things like this: bartering, sewing something, making something, doing pottery, which in a minute we may chat about your fab cup. But so this is what's going on with you guys, which is so great, because you grow what you like, but maybe you don't have the right whatever or enough room, or it's just varieties and spice of life.
A bumper crop of something, and you just don't know what to do with all the bounty. So it's good to be able to have an outlet where you can share it with friends and community. And
it also works for the health of the garden, right? Because you have to get those things out, because if they rot and all that is when you can have the problems of, let's say, bees or ants or whatever, right? So it is really, it's all a continuous, let's just keep it flowing, people, right?
Yeah, and if you're picking food early, it's actually increasing the productivity of the plant.
The yield, you would say.
Yes, exactly. Oh, wow, look at you. All technical in the farming terminology.
Yes, Green Acres has nothing on me. It's all good, the city and the country. That's what we did to balance ourselves out.
Yeah, bringing them closer together.
Yes. And so now, do you have ways of, do you work with marginalized people in any way, or like food? I mean, this particular organization or the food, is that a food bank for people who don't have money, or how does that work?
The Westside Produce Exchange is actually not a food bank, but I work with a couple other organizations that are more geared towards helping underserved populations and
Cool.
getting access to fresh food.
Nice.
One particular group I'd like to give a shout out to is the Social Justice Learning Institute,
Mm-hmm.
and they're based in Inglewood, California, and what they do is they formed a CSA through this school, and it's a nonprofit, and they go to people's houses and set up gardens, and then they bring the produce from the gardens and they put it into the CSA, so it's revenue generating and
Nice.
sustainable. So yeah.
Oh my God.
It's pretty
I
cool.
want to share a story with you about a guy that I saw, a young man who lived in an area in Chicago, outside of Chicago, black guy, young guy. And I love Oprah. I love Oprah, but I mean, I really, really love Queen Latifah. And on her show every day, she always brings somebody on who's giving back and making a difference, and, you know, often young people. And she had this guy on. And it was so great. She actually brought him into the show, and he didn't know he was coming. It was really great. But anyway, the reason I bring him up is that he was really overweight, and they just didn't have fresh produce anywhere, because, you know, it's this sort of whole thing about many liquor stores and no fresh food places. You know, you're not seeing Whole Foods there, people, for sure. And so he was sick of it, and he was getting unhealthy, and he was pretty young, though. He was like 17 or 18. I mean, he was a young chap, but really overweight, and he started a garden. And it was near a basketball field, a court, and just kind of the outside of the basketball court, I believe. I mean, it was in this kind of weird area, but he turned it into a garden. Doesn't that rock?
That's
And
awesome.
so he had all this food, and then it grew and grew, literally. He moved it. He got support. He got people digging what he was doing and loving him so much, and just, you know, jumping on board. And so he went to another place, and it grew and grew, and the garden's bigger and bigger, and it's like a farm now. And he's doing awesomely, and just people come and pick the food, and he's lost about 89 pounds or something, not only because of eating the great food, but also working his butt off, literally. But he's just got this complete passion. I mean, doesn't that rock?
That's so awesome.
I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
people are so hungry for good quality food, and when these opportunities come about, I think that people just want to jump on it and be involved. So for all your listeners out there, I would just encourage people to just get creative and try to figure out how
Yeah.
they can contribute to a local food system.
I love that idea. And also, I will say, with this young guy, I'm so sorry I can't remember his name, but I'm sure you guys can Google it and find it, because he's really worth checking out. The idea, even for me, I wanted to be a vegetarian at one point, but I just didn't really like vegetables. My one son wanted to be too. He was like freaked out about the meat thing, but he just didn't really like vegetables. And when I shifted my diet and actually mineralized a bit more, my taste buds changed, and I used to really not like broccoli or cauliflower. I mean, I just didn't. It was like, okay, you know, obligatory, I'm not getting cancer eating. And but I now really enjoy it. And Brussels sprouts, oh my God, I would be like, eat everything on your plate, but
It depends
you
on
know,
how it's prepared sometimes, you know?
Yeah, and
Right.
we're so raised on
Yeah.
sugar, fats, and salts. That's like the holy trinity of processed food and fast food. They just get the perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt, and it just sends off like trigger bells in your
Yes.
brain that
Ding
just say,
dong, ding
yeah,
dong, ding
this is so awesome.
happy bells.
Yeah, happy bells.
Until
exactly.
after, and then you're
Uh-huh.
like, no, and then you
Yeah.
need some more happy bells.
Mhm.
Wow. It's so
And-
true. And so that's why I think that that's something that, you know, the expectation of what people want, you know, I think is really something that has been skewed so badly as far as propaganda. Oh, well, you know, it's, you know, people really do want McDonald's and whatever. And then even when McDonald's changes it up, or the different fast foods have been offering salads and stuff, people just still don't eat the salad from McDonald's. It's like when they go to McDonald's, I mean, for the most part. The percentage is so small, they found out. And so, because people just go and get a Big Mac or whatever, that's what they're at McDonald's for.
That's what they're craving.
That's what they're craving, and that's what they, want there. But the expectation that people will enjoy pure, delicious food, and like you were saying, John, not cooked to pieces too, because that is a big deal. I grew up in, well, I'm still working on the growing up part, but I started out in Chicago, and that was the beginning of my journey. And it was like they're really, because of the weather, there weren't, and at that point in my day, there wasn't as much shipping in of cherries from Chile and all of this kind of thing. So you did eat more what was in season, and we really had the corn in the summer. Oh my God, and it was delicious and amazing with that salt and but we only had it for 2.5 months at the most, and then we had and the strawberries, and then we'd have whatever. But people did overcook everything, and so that's a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a big problem.
Try to eat raw. Not all the time. Like, cooking food has definitely got its value as far as making nutrients and calories more accessible. But
yes, chopping.
Yeah.
Chomping.
Yeah,
dressings go a long way too.
That's right. That's exactly right. One thing I want to mention also, I was starting to think about when I was a kid, and last week I had an amazing guest on. I was just about to say her name, but she has an organization called Anonymous Good. And I love this organization so much because what you do is just go on Anonymous Good, see a good that somebody else is doing, and then post it. And then a bit of this money goes, they have 4 different organizations. It feeds people all around the world. Over 22,000 have been fed. 383 slaves have been freed, which is amazing. Over 4,000 trees have been planted. And then they're also working on the water piece, which I'm helping them with Waves for Water. But anyway, the point about that is that that is such a beautiful connection that way. And we talked about the idea of, eating everything on your plate because of the starving children in Africa. And, we were kind of talking about that because of the connection thing. It's like that is such a disconnect thing to say to a child. It's like, well, what are we going to do? Put this Brussels sprouts in a little package and send it? Like, that isn't what anybody's talking about. I mean, it's, but the idea that you grow what you eat, you don't throw it away like the $2 cilantro or whatever it ends up being, and rotting in your refrigerator because there's just no way. And then using what you need, and again, the concept of that. My son was telling me about these micro houses or something that are this movement about, I guess, are 90 square feet or some crazy thing, and he's 18 and he thought it was just super cool. And I'm thinking, we really are shifting from the idea of the materialism, I'll just use that word, to knowing that our success and our value is in having what we need and feeling grateful that we have what we need around us right now, and we're using what we have.
Yeah, that
don't you think?
Yeah, it contributes, I think, so much more to your well-being than having a fancy new car or going out and getting a new pair of clothes or something.
Well, and also just really using what you have. I mean, I think there's something really, really great about that. Like if you have, 7 candles in your house and you just sort of use them, and then you use the glass that the candle came in and for something else, or putting another candle in it. I mean, the idea that, again, the concept of composting, just really like the Indian with the buffalo, using every bit. I don't know if you guys know, but I always use that expression because Native Americans would, yes, kill a buffalo. It was also a very sacred act, very sacred. And of course, they had millions of them, and we know the story about where they ended up going. But, killing that buffalo, as I say, number one, was very sacred, but then every element of that buffalo was used. Every single sinew of that of that buffalo was used. And I love the concept of that, and I think that's something that's very lost in countries where there's just a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's like we could just single use all day long. It doesn't matter.
Throw it away when
just
it's
throw it
done.
away when I don't need it.
Yeah,
even if I didn't even use it.
Yeah, and in nature there's no such thing as waste. Everything is recycled or composted or eaten or broken down by something else. And same within a lot of the indigenous cultures, they had placed a lot of value on that, and that's definitely been lost to a significant degree in our culture with consumerism and materialism and just our drive, our desire for more.
And again, that kind of feeling of disconnection. I feel that when people, again, I was talking to my son about that because I was saying we went from having manageable houses. I mean, it's even funny, like in Santa Monica where we live near, the houses were very small, and now they have, what do they call, John, micro mansions? There's micro mansions, I think they're called. Or micro mansions, and they take the little dinky space they have, but make these incredible spaces. And it's like, do we really need all that? No, I mean, no. And my sons were saying, both of them, at different times we had big houses, and then we just didn't, and we ended up all being in one little area anyway. And they shared a bedroom anyway. They had their own bedrooms, but they just shared a bedroom, and like that. It was like, we just want to gather around the campfire.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah, I think
Come on, people.
We're all looking for the community. We're looking for
or
for our-
creating
for
it
our
like you are.
neighbors, and people want that connection. And
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're all craving connection, really. in some
Yes.
ways.
yeah,
And
we're-
you're creating it. So I want to really bring it home about how you're doing that, because I really love that. So you guys, anybody who just tuned in, I know this is video, so you probably are hopefully watching from the very beginning. But this is, now John, they can see these beautiful vegetables in front of me, right? These like
Yes,
very,
they definitely can. When I pan out, they definitely can see them.
They they're just so amazing. I mean,
Mhm.
so these are grown from your garden, or where are these from?
Yeah, these are grown at one of our growing grounds. So we're urban farmers. We're trying to create a local food system by growing food in the urban areas, and so we're getting accumulating like different growing grounds, such as your friend's house,
Nice.
her front yard, where we'll be growing for the community.
Beautiful, because yes, she lives in a really nice house. It's not that big, but it's she's one person.
Yeah.
She has our family, which we all love vegetables and all that. So I know we're going to be digging in,
Make
but
sure we send some your way too.
thank you. But yes, there's going to be so much left over. So now let me give. I mean, I know there's information up, but I just want to remind people again: Homegrown Gardens, LA. So you can Google that. You can get at Matt. Right? They can get at you.
Sure.
And use him, people. He wants to be used, right? Right, Matt? You want to be used. Come on, tell us the truth.
All right. If it's for growing food, most
You
definitely.
you don't mind. I love it that John blushes. I don't know, whatever goes on with me. Like when I was talking about these vegetables, you were blushing. I love it. I
think it's just hate flashes for me. It's
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
It's muggy out today.
It is. Oh my God. Well, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention about that is, again, the possibility of doing it. So guys who are listening and watching us and seeing our amazingly gorgeous vegetables and stuff, this is something you could even start something like this in your land, right? I mean, isn't this something that they could see? I mean, that's one of the things I love about this show, is that I want to plant the seeds literally of possibility. If you're listening to this in Italy, or you're listening to this in South Africa, I mean, I love the idea of, you may not be able to actually have Matt come over, but maybe you can model this. Is it possible to help
Yeah.
people do something in Chicago or somewhere else?
Yeah, definitely, and we're really trying to make this as replicable as possible.
You got it.
All right.
I think so.
Yeah, we want this to kind of be a model that other areas of the city or other cities can repeat. Yeah,
Like it.
It's really not very complicated. It's pretty simple process of starting seeds, and you just need a marketplace for that. So that the farmers markets have really been super helpful for us for having a platform to engage the community. And but there's, as I said before, there's so much interest. There's so much need for the local food and community right now that
Yes.
there's probably already things happening in most cities, I think, throughout the world. And I would just encourage
Right.
people to connect with whoever might be involved with such like urban agricultural activities in the neighborhoods.
Cool. And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, or you're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, I can do this. Or, again, it doesn't have to be your entire front lawn. I mean, obviously you can take a bit of it and keep part of your lawn or whatever. I mean, or take baby steps, right? People, baby steps. I know in my life works a little better than leaping. I wish I could leap more, but anyway, baby steps are good too.
Oh, yeah.
So, even starting with pots, perhaps, even if you have a lawn, and then saying, screw it, I'm going for it, or whatever, diving in the deep end. or again the baby step, sort of getting your chops up, it was, as we say in the music business, to kind of literally get your hands in the soil.
Yeah.
And start with it. So there are people, I mean, so again, in your area and then in Southern California, and what can be replicatable is to guide people, school them a little bit, like with Zan. I mean, you're there to kind of handhold a bit until she gets her training wheels off.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
good, because we need it. We need training wheels.
Yeah. Well, that's our whole goal, is
I
to
do.
really help people grow their own. I mean, we're trying to create this local food system by growing on other people's properties, but we really want people to be empowered and to be able to do it themselves.
The power of one.
Mm-hmm.
The power of one. Thank you.
You got it, people.
Well, you got it, people. That's right. So this is the other thing I think that's so inspiring. So when people, I mean, honestly, when I saw Zan's garden turned, and I knew it before, I knew it as a grass garden. I mean, she's lived there for a long time. And then I went over there the other day. I was so shocked and thrilled for her. And she's very environmentally oriented anyway. I mean, it's just so much more integral. It's like we're working so closely to getting ourselves off of fossil fuel. Those of us who are trying, I mean, I know that there's just, again, baby steps or the better leaps of some of my lovely friends out there that are doing the electric car thing. All of this is a web, I feel, that we are weaving, kind of a lovely river that we're all in, that it's like, wow, that person's doing that. How cool is that? I may not be doing that today, but I may know somebody who's moving into a house and, has a backyard. I mean, it doesn't have to be the front yard, and wow, I think I'm going to tell them about this. So again, the power of one, but also the sharing the love concept of this. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's so powerful when people see things, and when it's something different, something out of the ordinary, it really grabs people's attention. And a front yard farm or a front yard garden really turns people's heads. And as you said, they might not change their mentality that day, but it'll plant that seed that it someday will hopefully sprout and bloom into something beautiful.
Oh, yes. And also, again, the idea that if the person can't necessarily do it, but they know somebody else who can, or they know somebody who, all the things that we've talked about, somebody who might need food, or somebody who knows somebody who needs food, or just, again, the idea of this show, Singing in the Rain, and the power of one is to, for you guys to be educated and to also really know what our power is and what we can do. And again, the sustainability of ourselves, the power of one, but also to be responsible for ourselves on this planet, because a lot of stuff's going on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and to have some tomatoes right there to whip up a nice bruschetta when when maybe something's going on, maybe trucks can't come through, and Whole Foods doesn't have your tomatoes that day. I mean, it's like, don't you think it's another element of just being responsible for our own well-being?
Yeah, definitely. I think growing food just addresses so many issues: personal responsibility, societal responsibility, and if we're growing our own food, it takes the burden off all these other strained systems that are currently just getting weighed down. Like our water system that's just getting sucked dry, like all the aqueducts just getting sucked dry from the over consumption, all these silly lawns that we have everywhere.
And the trucking, the trucks going from here to there and there to here with all of this food. Again, that's not really even, shouldn't be on a truck. It should be on a vine.
And the petrochemicals that go into the growing process. I mean, it's billions of tons a year that are sprayed and consumed for food crops, and it's a heavy thing.
Yikes!
But there's so much potential, I think, in this. This is a really booming industry right now.
The hope. That's one other thing I want to ask you, actually, because John tells me we have 2 minutes, so I want to wrap this up with a really high note. So a couple things. This can be, I mean, are there ordinances against it, or can people just really take the responsibility and go for it?
Yeah, people can totally just go for it at this point.
Good.
There was recently a law. There was a parkway ordinance or a ban for growing food in the Parkway. The Parkway is the strip between the sidewalk and the curb.
Okay.
And that's technically city property, but
Right.
they just passed a new ordinance in LA that allows residents to grow food in that space.
Oh my God, that
It's-
is amazing, because
it's-
that is city for
yeah.
sure. That I know.
Mhm.
So that is such the hope. That is so incredible. I am really excited about that. Well, again, I think we're coming to the end of our time. Thank you so much for bringing these beautiful seeds to me. I hope I get some of them, because I'm going to be doing this, cilantro especially. And I want to, again, honor you so much for doing this. And I really, really do, because this is a very, very significant thing that you're doing. Not only the physical aspect that you're doing, but being on my show, sharing with our people. And I really hope that you guys take this and go with it. Let it take you. Take the seeds, let it blow wherever it's going to go, and make a difference, because that's what we're here for. And so I love that. Thank you so much. And so until next time, this is Sunny Chayes with Singing in the Rain and the Power of One. So let's bring it, people. Bye bye for now. Bye. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Matt.
Sunny.